eyes, I was standing in the sterile white lobby of First Mercantile Bank, and Gigi Moreau was about to destroy my life with a single mouse click. I knew this moment. I had lived it once before. The fluorescent lights humming overhead, the faint smell of printer ink and disinfectant, the way Todd's hand rested possessively on the small of my back, while his eyes were fixed on Gigi's face. She was perched behind the teller window like a sparrow on a wire, her head tilted, her finger hovering over the enter key, her lips pursed in that ridiculous pout she thought made her look adorable. "Don't be so mad, Gwenny," she chirped, using the nickname she knew I hated. "My horoscope says today is my lucky day for money. Look at that little stock, all pitiful and green. Once Gigi doubles the money, I'll give it all back, okay?" On her screen, the trading platform glowed Green Terra Solutions, a penny stock so worthless it was scheduled for delisting in 6 hours. Its chart was a flat line, its market cap was negative, and Gigi Moreau, the bank's most incompetent junior teller, had just dumped $100 million of state emergency funds into it. State funds, not pocket change, not a rounding error $100 million from the Canyon Lake Dam reinforcement project. The money that was supposed to buy steel and concrete to shore up a failing dam before the summer rains came. The money that, in my previous life, I had saved. In my previous life, I had screamed, I had lunged forward and smashed the glass partition. I had torn the network cable from the wall with my bare hands, stopping the transaction milliseconds before it cleared, and my quick thinking had saved the dam. The reinforcement materials were purchased on time. The summer floods came, and the dam held, and thousands of people downstream never knew how close they came to drowning. And Todd had hated me for it. He had hated me for humiliating Gigi, for making her cry, for overreacting to what he insisted was just a harmless mistake by his childhood best friend, who was still learning the ropes. He had spent the next 6 months whispering poison into every ear that would listen. The board, the auditors, the state regulators. He had fabricated evidence, forged documents, built a meticulous case that I was the one embezzling funds. And when the investigation closed in, and he knew he couldn't keep the truth buried forever, he had locked me in the records room, doused the floor in gasoline, and lit a match. Gigi is innocent, Gwen. How dare you frighten her? You'll be ash. And so will all these records that prove anything. Those were the last words I heard before the flames took me. The last thing I saw was Todd's face through the smoke. Not angry, not desperate, just satisfied. The satisfaction of a man who had erased his mistake and was already composing the eulogy for his tragically deceased girlfriend. And then I opened my eyes, and I was back in the bank. System initializing. Host detected. Gwendolyn Vance. Status. Deceased by arson and premeditated murder. Compatibility. 99.8%. Activating karmic rebirth protocol. You have been wronged beyond mortal measure. You are granted one chance to return. Initiating temporal rewind. The words flickered at the edge of my vision, translucent and blue, and I understood. I had been given a gift, a second chance, a do-over at the exact moment of destruction. Gigi was still pouting. Todd was still hovering. The enter key was still waiting. In my previous life, I had lunged forward and saved them all. This time, I stepped back. I folded my arms across my chest, and I let the moment unfold. "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Buy it." Gigi blinked. Todd blinked. The bank manager, who had been hovering nervously behind them, blinked. "Gwen." Todd's voice was uncertain. What are you doing?" "I'm doing nothing. You're the regional project director, Todd. You approved this transaction. You signed the authorization. You vouched for Gigi's competence. So go ahead, buy the stock." Gigi's pout wavered. "You're not going to yell at me?" "No, Gigi. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to do anything. You think your horoscope makes you a financial genius? Prove it." Something flickered in her eyes. Confusion. Then defiance, then a kind of reckless, childish spite. "Fine, I will. My My horoscope says today is my lucky day, and my horoscope is never wrong. She clicked enter. The transaction went through. $100 million vanished from the Canyon Lake Dam account and reappeared as approximately 4 billion shares of Green Terra Solutions, a company whose primary asset was an abandoned algae farm in rural Nevada. The confirmation screen blinked cheerfully. Gigi clapped her hands and did a little bounce in her chair. See? Easy. Now we just wait for the stock to go up, and then I'll sell it and put the money back. It'll be like it never happened. The bank manager was staring at the screen, his face going through a rapid series of color changes. Ms. Moreau, that was $100 million from a state account for a dam. That's going to fail in 3 months if we don't get the reinforcement materials. Oh, don't be such a worrywart, Mr. Peterson. The stock will go up. My horoscope promise. She turned to Todd. Toddy, tell them I know what I'm doing. Todd puffed out his chest. Gigi's instincts are never wrong. I'll take full responsibility. If there's any issue, I'll cover it personally. I almost laughed. Cover it personally? Todd's entire net worth was maybe $400,000, and most of that was in his condo. He couldn't cover a $100 million loss if he sold every organ in his body. Great, I said. I'm glad that's settled. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a call to make. I walked out of the bank, my heels clicking against the polished floor. Behind me, Gigi was still chattering about her horoscope. Todd was signing more papers, taking more responsibility, digging his grave deeper with every stroke of his pen. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I had memorized in my previous life, the direct line to Margaret Vance Gin, the chairwoman of the State Ethics Commission and my mother's oldest friend. Madam Chairwoman, I said when she answered, I need to report a misappropriation of state funds. The investigation hit like a hurricane. Within 4 hours, Green Terra Solutions was delisted, and the state's $100 million was worth approximately $8,000. Within 24 hours, the state auditor's office had opened a formal investigation. Within a week, Todd Ashford was suspended from his position as regional project director, and Gigi Moreau was arrested on charges of gross negligence, unauthorized trading, and embezzlement of public funds. Todd tried to blame me. Of course, he told the investigators that I should have stopped the transaction, that I had failed in my oversight duties. But the records were clear. He was the one who had signed the authorization. He was the one who had vouched for Gigi's competence. He was the one who had said, on camera, I'll take full responsibility. And Gigi broke faster than a dry twig. She sat in the interrogation room, tears streaming down her face, and sobbed that Todd had manipulated her, that Todd had told her it was fine, that Todd had promised her nothing bad would happen. She flipped on him in exchange for a reduced sentence, handing over texts, emails, and recorded phone calls that proved Todd had been using her to move money for years. Small amounts at first, then larger still. The $100 million trade wasn't a mistake. IT was a trial run for a much bigger scheme he was planning, and Gigi, the innocent childhood friend, was his willing accomplice. The evidence was overwhelming. Todd was arrested at his condo, his hands cuffed behind his back, his face a mask of disbelief. As the officers led him away, he caught my eye through the window of my office across the street. You did this, he mouthed. You ruined her. I smiled and raised my coffee cup in a toast. The trial was a media sensation. Todd Ashford, the golden boy of the State Infrastructure Department, was convicted on 17 counts of fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. He was sentenced to 22 years in federal prison. Gigi Moreau, who testified against him, received 8 years. The bank manager was fired. The bank itself was fined $14 million for its lack of oversight. And the dam was saved. Not by me, not this time. The investigation uncovered the fraud so quickly that the state was able to freeze the accounts and redirect emergency funds before the reinforcement deadline passed. The summer floods came and the dam held, and the people downstream never knew how close they had come to disaster. I was exonerated. MY testimony had been crucial, my evidence damning. The state attorney general personally thanked me for my courage. The governor appointed me to the State Infrastructure Oversight Board, a position I used to implement the reforms that would prevent another Todd Ashford from ever exploiting the system again. 5 years later, I ran for state office and won in a landslide. My campaign was built on transparency, accountability, and the promise that no one, no matter how charming, no matter how connected, would ever be above the law. My opponent tried to bring up my relationship with Todd. IT backfired spectacularly. Everyone already knew I was the woman who had brought him down. 10 years later, I stood on the floor of the state Senate, watching the final vote on the Public Accountability Act, the most sweeping anti-corruption legislation in the state's history. It passed unanimously, and as the gavel fell, I thought about Todd, about Gigi, about the flames in the records room, about the woman I had been in my previous life, the one who had saved them all and been murdered for it. I had been given a second chance, and this time, I had let them destroy themselves. The woman who was supposed to burn became the woman who set the fire, and she was just getting started.